Welcome rezero and Overlord fans. Today I want to tell you a story about how Tappei, the author of rezero, inadvertently created a fan war between Overlord fans and rezero fans. So for those of you that don't know, recently an isekai quartet movie came out. In fact, there was a very important rezero lore side story which came out, and I did make a video on that, so I highly recommend, if you're a rezero fan, you should really watch this video. Now, because of the isekai quartet movie coming out, there was actually an interview between Ashina, who is the isekai quartet movie director, and Tappei, the author of rezero. And you can see the interview on screen in Japanese. However, we're going to be interested in a very specific part of it. And this is where they talk about Reinhard and Ainz from Overlord. And on screen you can see the deep L translation of that. So on screen you can see the exchange between Tappei and Ashina, which is through deep L translation. And Ashina says that Reinhard is the most powerful character, just like in the main series of rezero, but he is really difficult to handle. And Tappei responds saying, "To be honest, I don't think even Reinhard could ever beat Ainz-sama." And Ashina says that's true. Now, of course, already from this, many people are thinking, what? rezero author has just confirmed that Reinhard cannot beat Ainz in like a fight. And Ashina continues stating, that is a unanimous view of all of the other professors. By the way, when he says professors, he's referring to all of the authors from the different series. So the Konosuba author, the Tanya author, the Shield Hero author. Not only that, Ashina continues stating, even if there's compensation for the abilities in the isekai quartet world, no one could probably beat the Overlord group. And Tappei continues by stating, it's true that Reinhard is invincible and invulnerable, but I don't think he could withstand a battle at a level where a city or country would disappear. And then Ashina states, well, if that happens, I can't help but feel he will be given a new divine protection or whatever. Now, this is really interesting because from this Q&A interview, many people started having a sort of fan war between the rezero fans and the Overlord fans. The Overlord fans were getting super excited, pretty much showing that Ainz could beat Reinhard in a fight. rezero fans were salty. The power scalers came out of their shells and tried to do some calculations to show that Reinhard is stronger, and it was pretty much a fan meltdown in the Overlord server and rezero servers where the fans were just crying. So it was kind of funny. So what actually happened later on is that Ice from Witch Cult Translations actually reached out to Ashina, the director of Isekai Quartet, to actually ask him to clarify things about the interview. And the funniest thing is that Ashina actually responded and clarified it, and Ice again summarized what Ashina said. On screen you can see what Ice stated that Ashina said. So the first thing that Ashina clarified was the words "can't win," and apparently that this was something that wasn't really well translated into English, but the words "can't win" was essentially portrayed as victory conditions. And when you translate it as victory conditions, it makes it a lot more, because what Ashina and Tappei were talking about wasn't strength or power levels, it was about these ideas of victory conditions. So if I was to give you an example of this, by the way, so you can understand, the best example I can actually come to is Pride If. After all, in Pride If, this was literally the same conclusion that Subaru came up with. Subaru's victory condition to beat Reinhard was to essentially destroy the capital of Lagunica. Subaru even admits that he cannot beat Reinhard, but he can beat Reinhard by destroying Lagunica, because after all, if Reinhard can't defend the capital, then he pretty much loses. His title of being a hero goes in the mud because he cannot save anything. And this is the conclusion of Pride If. And this is how Subaru, quotation mark, beats Reinhard. And this is of course what Ashina and Tappei were alluding to when they talked about a city level attack or country level attack. Because Reinhard, yes, he would be able to survive, but he would still lose because he wouldn't be able to save anyone. And this is the Pride If analogy. So yes, hopefully this clarified the misinformation of the statement of Tappei saying that Reinhardt cannot beat Ainz as being a power level discussion. It was never intended to be a power level discussion on whether or not Reinhardt could physically beat Ainz. The context of that was, of course, this idea of victory conditions. This idea that Reinhardt could not beat Ainz in a sort of scenario where they had to achieve their own goals. And we know this from ReZero anyway. Pridif, the example I gave you, where Reinhardt is infinitely stronger than Subaru, but Subaru achieved his goal of burning down the capital, and therein Reinhardt loses. You know, the same happens in Gluttony If. I won't go into spoilers there because that's Arc 6 material. And there are a few other examples which I won't go into in the ReZero storyline, but if you've read Arc 5, you know what I'm talking about. But it just goes to show that there are scenarios where even though Reinhardt is invulnerable and invincible, he can still be beaten on a tactical level. And that's what Tappei was referring to when he says that Reinhardt cannot win.